All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to everyone who for this lesson. I'll just open the presentation. Today we're going to be covering a very important aspect of reading comprehension. Just give me a moment. Right. Right. So today we're going to be covering a very important aspect of reading comprehensions. Now, the thing with reading comprehensions is that as we're reading the passages, there are places when we begin to zone out. There are times when we begin to zone out and we start rereading all over again. We revisit the passages, and that takes up hell lot of time, and that decreases our efficiency, that decreases our productivity, that decreases our level of accuracy because we keep on losing the confidence moment by moment if we are trying to revisit the passage and reread the paragraphs over and over again, right? And that's something we really want to avoid, right? So that is why I've come up with this lesson on how we ought to summarize whatever it is we are reading when we're switching from or transitioning from one paragraph to another within our reading comprehensions. um, I want you to begin taking these notes, with a pen and paper, right? But slowly and steadily, as it becomes a habit, we want to switch from. Now, that only happens when we've reached a certain level of mastery, where I would recommend that once you've reached that certain level of mastery, you switch from taking notes on pen and paper to taking notes mentally, right? Having said that, we'll begin with the taking notes on paper using a pen or a pencil, right? That's where we begin at the basic level, and slowly and steadily we want to transition to the level of mastery. Slowly and steadily we want this to become a habit. Yes. um, right. So before we do that, before we delve into the nitty gritties of what reading comprehensions are, how they're tested, and what we can do to maximize our level of accuracy to increase our efficiency and productivity, allow me to give you an introduction of the Unacademy platform. Right. So Unacademy is perhaps India's largest learning platform today when it comes to preparing for competition exams or especially management exams, especially exams like CAT, GMAT, ZAT, and MAT, and the likes. And you're on the YouTube channel called Let's Crack Management Exams. So here we'll be covering various nitty-gritties of how we can crack these management exams. I am Prankur Arora. I am going to be your instructor on this journey of learning. I'll be covering various aspects of verbal aptitude and reading comprehension. Uh, I've been a trainer and a coach for the better part of the last couple of years. I've also written this book called It's Not Funny. I am a published author, and it's a work of fiction, a satirical work of fiction. So if you're fond of reading or if you're fond of uh, dark sardonic humor, be sure to check it out. It's available on Amazon, I guess. And I hold advanced certifications in facilitation from an American organization called Leadership Management International. I am also an entrepreneur, and my entrepreneurial venture, pertains to the creative arts. Right, we're trying to build a channel for creative arts excellence in our country, and that is where Tamasha Entertainment comes into the picture. So there are quite a lot of features that enhance the pedagogy of learning when it comes to Unacademy and Unacademy's platform. Some of those features include giving you access to daily live classes, tests and quizzes where we evaluate your performance. The courses on the platform are all structured courses, and they're in line with the current exam syllabus, up to date and audited by subject matter experts. Plus, within one subscription, you get access to anything and everything on the platform. All sorts of live and recorded courses that you can watch from the comfort of any of your devices. All the educators, as I mentioned, are credible educators who've successfully mentored various students into top tier business schools like your IIMs and your MDIs and your XLRIs. Or you can experience all the live classes on the platform for free and start learning from the best educators, and then decide for yourself whether you want to add this to your learning journey with some additional benefits of the subscription or not. New batches, new courses, they keep on going live on the platform on a daily basis. The really cool thing about the platform is that you design your own schedule. You enroll in unlimited courses, all the kind of courses that you want to enroll into. You choose the kind of educators you want to learn from, and all you do is you set a personalized schedule for yourself. You decide your own schedule. You have that ownership, you have that responsibility. All we do is we'll send you those reminders, those push notifications, so that you don't really miss out on anything you set your eyes on. Language is never a barrier. Language is never a barrier because we've got teachers teaching and educators teaching in vernacular languages as well. Plus, you can watch the recorded courses anytime, anywhere. You learn anytime, anywhere by personalizing your own schedule. Um, when it comes to virtual learning, a really important thing is how you keep your learners engaged, right? So what Unacademy does, it enables a real-time interaction between the educators as well as the learners, right? So we engage in discussions in real time, we have doubt clearing sessions in real time, everything on the platform happens in real time, right? Plus we have this feature of live polls where we conduct live polls during a class, and you compete for a place on the leaderboard. So if you get the right answer, your name is broadcast on the leaderboard. As I was saying, we conduct various live tests and quizzes, and the purpose of the live tests and quizzes is to give you detailed reports and detailed analysis of your preparation journey. Right? We give you in-depth insights about about your performance. Stuff like topic-wise scores, stuff like the kind of time you're spending on every question. Right? So all that will help you develop perspective about your learning journey. All that will help you identify what it is you really have to improve in and what you're really doing well with. Plus, with the subscription you get access to all class notes and all kinds of resources with educator annotations. For example, during this lesson you'll see that I'll be scribbling a lot of stuff on the PowerPoint presentation, right? So those notes with the annotations are made available to you once the class is done with. So there's quite a lot of things that come with the platform, right? And I've covered almost all the features. Now coming to the subscription models, you can clearly see that as the time period of your subscription goes up, the cost of the subscription per month is going down dramatically, right? You can clearly see that. Plus we all understand that any kind of learning journey is a long learning journey, it's a lengthy learning journey, right? So I would recommend that you opt in for a longer subscription period. And if you use my name, Prankur, Prankur, you get an extra 10% off on any of the subscriptions that you opt for, right? Having said that, let's begin with the lesson for the day. Today, as I mentioned, we are covering various aspects of reading comprehension, right? Now, when it comes to reading comprehensions, uh, there are typically three kinds of passages that you can expect in your management exams, right? We all understand that those passages are very abstract in nature, very confusing, very wordy. Every sentence has like 35 to 40 words, right? So, how do we crack that? Number one, we identify the kind of passages that we can expect. So broadly, there are three categories for your reading comprehension. One is you've got passages related to the world of business, finance, business, entrepreneurship. You uh, Basically, what you read in the newspaper Mint, the difficulty of it increasing tenfold. That is what you can expect. Then there's passages that cover all kinds of social sciences like psychology, sociology, anthropology. So you can expect passages from the world of social sciences, stuff like you know, as I was saying, psychology, um, sociology, philosophy, um, and the likes. Then there's finally passages from the technical world of science. right? Where you will be uh, you can expect passages on Large Hadron Collider, electrons, neutrons, protons, gamma rays, X rays, nuclear bombs, stuff like that. So, and all these passages will be very abstract in nature. Even if you're fond of reading about the world, even if you're fond of knowledge, even if you're fond of general knowledge, still these passages will be too much, because number one, their difficulty level increases. Number two, they're abstract in nature. It's tough to figure out what the passage is saying. And number three, as I have mentioned already, they are very, very wordy. Every sentence, typically, if you read books, if you read work emails, any kind of learning or reading that you do on a daily basis, the length of a sentence is like 10 words, 12 words. But when it comes to reading comprehension, the length of the sentence is like 35 words, 40 words in one sentence, right? So the difficulty level is a lot. But broadly speaking, these are the three kind of passages that you can expect. Now, why do we want to create a habit of note making? Why do I recommend that we make notes when we are solving reading comprehensions? Because, see, understand that because the passages are so tough, you've got a tendency of zoning out. Now, what I mean by zoning out doesn't mean that you are giving up, just that your level of confidence decreases, and we want to understand every sentence that we are reading, but that does not happen, and then you start rereading the paragraphs, rereading the passage. Something that could have taken 2 to 3 minutes, you're spending like 7 to 8 minutes reading the same comprehension, and we want to avoid that. We want to avoid zoning out, right? This is a red flag when it comes to reading comprehensions if we are zoning out, right? So what I would recommend is that uh, for every paragraph we make notes which are clear, which are concise, and which are conversational. What do I mean by clear? Clear means that they you how do I put it, that if you're reading something of the level of PhD, you are expressing it at the level of a fifth grade learner. If you've got someone in your family who's in class 5, imagine that they are sitting right in front of you and you're explaining the same information to them. What do I mean by concise? By concise, I mean that I don't want you to write down sentences as the summary or as the notes. I want every paragraph summarized in 5 words max, 5 to 6 words, not more than that. Not more than that. So I want it to be concise. Conversational. What do I mean by conversational? I don't want you to express the information in a way that is given in the reading comprehension. I want it to be very conversational. I want it to, again, imagine the fifth grade learner sitting right in front of you, and you're explaining Large Hadron Collider to them, right? So make it conversational. Make it conversational. Don't say Large Hadron Collider. Say a long pipe where electrons and protons collide. Make it conversational, right? So notes have to be clear, they have to be concise, and they have to be conversational. Now, there are typically two things that I want us to remember when we are taking notes or when we're making notes. हमने कोई भी पैराग्राफ रीड किया है, तो there are two questions that I want you to answer. Number one, what is the subject of the paragraph, or who is the subject of the paragraph? So the answers to what or who. All right, that is note number one that I want you to make. Note number two that I want you to make is, what is the main point of the paragraph? What I mean by that is, why is this subject mentioned, or how is this subject mentioned? So the answer to two questions, why or how. Subject is the answer to what or who. What is the passage to a paragraph talking about? Who is the paragraph talking about? Why is the paragraph talking about them, or how is the paragraph talking about them? So these are the two notes that I want us to make after every paragraph. Nothing more than that and nothing less than that. Every paragraph, every see your reading comprehension, be it short or be it long, it'll have multiple paragraphs. As and when you're done with reading one paragraph, I want you to make these two notes. Number one is subject, number two is the main point, and then I want you to move on to the next paragraph. Don't switch paragraphs without making notes. Reiterating yet again that I want you to begin with a pen and a pencil, right? Develop that habit with a pen and a pencil, and slowly, once you've gained mastery in note making, you won't need the pen and paper. You'll be making notes mentally. You'll be able to remember what it is you've read. But till the time we reach that level, I want us to use a pen and a paper. All right. Having said that, let's begin with a paragraph. Read this paragraph and hit me up on the chat with the two notes. Number one, subject. Number two, main point. Hit me up on the chat with what you think is the subject and what you think is the main point of this paragraph. This is a previous year CAT comprehension. This is, I guess, 2002. This comprehension was in the 2002 paper of CAT. Hi Samya, welcome to the lesson. Try to give me the answer. That's all right. We just began. Um, if you've just entered, these are the two kinds of notes that I want you to make. I want you to read the paragraph and I want you to tell me what is the subject or who is the subject of the paragraph and why is the subject being mentioned or how is the subject being mentioned. Two things. Don't take more than 2 minutes, guys. Do it intuitively. As soon as you're done reading the passage, okay, subject Anushka says is philosophy. All right, good job. And what is the main point, Anushka? So the both of you have gotten it right. Subject is the philosophy. What is the main point? How is the philosophy being talked about here? In what context? We know for a fact that we are talking about philosophy, right? Philosophy is the subject. What is the main point? Read here. In the very first line, they say that philosophy has two factors. One is the religious factor, and the other is the scientific factor. Now, read the next line. Individual philosophers have differed widely in regard to the proportions in which these two factors entered into their systems, but it is the presence of both in some degree that characterizes philosophy. So, how are they talking about philosophy? They are talking about philosophy in two factors by saying that philosophy has two factors. One is the religious factor, and the other is the scientific factor. So, the subject, as you both mentioned, is philosophy. Main point is the two factors, religious and scientific, right? So you can clearly see that I've been able to summarize this paragraph in 4 to 5 words: philosophy, two factors, uh, religious, scientific. I've summarized this paragraph in not more than 5 words, and this is what I want all of you to do as well. Yes, the two factors are the main point, Anushka. Yes, very well done. Let's switch over to the next paragraph now. What is the subject here? What is the subject here? What is the main point here? Look at the pronouns. What are the pronouns talking about? The first line says philosophy, as I shall understand the word, is something intermediate between theology and science. Alright. So the main first sentence is talking about what? Talking about philosophy. Like theology, it consists of speculations on matters as to which definite knowledge has so far been unascertainable. It is here again referring to what? Philosophy. But like science, it appeals to human reason rather than to authority, whether that of tradition or that of revelation. All definite knowledge, so I should contend, belongs to science. All dogma as to what surpasses definite knowledge belongs to theology. But between theology and science, there is a no man's land, exposed to attack from both sides. This no man's land is what? It is philosophy. So main point is comparison with theology and science, and philosophy is the main subject. So yes, philosophy is the main subject, as I would put it. Anushka, you've gotten this right. Main point, uh, sure, you can say that it is comparison. At the same time, look at how it is ending. It is ending by saying that philosophy exists between theology and science, right? In a no man's land, right? So the no man's land is, so main point, more than comparison, I would say, is the position of philosophy, right? What is the position of philosophy? The position of philosophy is what? It is the no man's land, right? So more than comparison, what are they doing? They are establishing the position of philosophy, and main subject is again philosophy. So good job there. You've understood it well. You've understood it well. Just that a little tweak when it comes to understanding what the main point is. Right? Now, also, whenever you're reading the paragraph, right? Whenever you're reading the paragraph, focus on what the pronouns are referring to, right? Because what the pronouns are referring to will definitely be the main subject. It ended, or rather, the paragraph began with the term philosophy, and the paragraph ended with the term philosophy, and midway, all the pronouns are referring to philosophy, right? If you think it is a comparison, it, they're drawing all definite knowledge, so I should contend, belongs to science. All dogma belongs to theology. So they are establishing then the position of what? They are establishing the position of philosophy as a place which exists between science and between theology, which is the no man's land. So the entire passage, they're talking about philosophy, and then they end the main point by saying that, you know what, we've established what is science, we've established what is theology. There is that space in between, which is the no man's land, which we'll refer to as philosophy, right? Let's move on to the third paragraph now. This is a rather existential paragraph, is it not? A very existential paragraph. So this is a paper that Bertrand Russell wrote, a paper on philosophy, and it was a part of the 2002 CAT exam. This comprehension. Imagine reading this comprehension when you're answering a management exam. All the existential questions being posed at you. The trick is to not question your decision of giving the management exam, right? Main point is everything cannot be answered by science, all right? And what is the subject, Anushka? We need the subject as well. What is the subject? Subject speculative minds. Okay, okay. Let me read out the passage to you as I explain it. Almost all the questions of most interest to speculative minds are such as science cannot answer. Almost what? Almost all the questions. What are we talking about? We are talking about questions here. And the confident answers of the theologians no longer seem so convincing as they did in former centuries. Is the world divided into mind and matter? And if so, what is mind and what is matter? The first question. Is mind subject to matter or is it possessed of independent powers? Has the universe any unity or purpose? Is it evolving towards some goal? Are there really laws of nature or do we believe in them only because of our innate love of order? Is man what he seems to the astronomer, a tiny lump of carbon and water impotently crawling on a small and unimportant planet? Or is he what he appears to Hamlet? Is he perhaps both at once? Is there a way of living that is noble and another that is base, or all ways of living merely futile? If there is a way of living, what is noble, in what does it consist, and how shall we achieve it? Must the good be eternal in order to deserve to be valued, or is it worth seeking even if the universe is inexorably moving towards death? Is there such a thing as wisdom, or is what seems such merely the ultimate refinement of folly? To such questions, no answer can be found in the laboratory. So, subject more than speculative minds, Anushka, I would say, are questions, the questions of most interest to speculative minds, because then the entire passage moves on to discuss not the speculative minds but what are the questions. So the main point to my mind would be or rather the subject would be different questions, different questions. And what will be the main point? Main point, I guess you've gotten right, that everything cannot be answered by science, that there are things in life that can find no answer in a laboratory, right? So the main point will be, yes, you've gotten it right, everything can't be answered by science. So that will be the main point. Subject, as you guessed it right, is the different questions. All right. Let's move on to the next paragraph now. Again, when it comes to subject, figure out the who, the what. When it comes to main point, figure out the why or the how. Theologies have professed to give answers, all too definite, but their definiteness causes modern minds to view them with suspicion. The studying of these questions, if not the answering of them, is the business of philosophy. Why, then, you may ask, waste time on such insoluble problems? To this, one may answer as a historian or as an individual facing the terror of cosmic loneliness. So figure out what the passage is talking about. Remember the previous one as you read this one. What are we talking about? We are talking about answers. We're talking about uh, viewing answers with suspicion. We're talking about questions, studying the questions and answering those questions, right? Why study the questions? Why study the questions and what kind of questions? The kind of questions that interest the minds, right? Okay, so Anushka says main subject is the business of philosophy. Okay, and what is the main point? If subject is the business of philosophy, what is the main point? Subject, Anushka, according to me, would be again read the passage, read the paragraph. The paragraph is what is the paragraph saying? The paragraph is saying theologies have professed to give answers all too definite, but their definiteness causes modern minds to view them with suspicion. The studying of these questions, if not answering of them, is the business of philosophy, right? So, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? We're talking about questions again. We're talking about questions that interest the mind, questions that inspire curiosity, questions that basically appeal to our mind, right? Because we want answers to those questions, right? And what is the main point? Main point could be that the answers that we get from the point of view of theology, they are too strong, they are too definite, and because they are too strong or too definite or too dogmatic, we view them with suspicion, right? And that is why in the end they say, so therefore to this one may answer as a historian or as an individual facing the terror of cosmic loneliness. So the main point is that the answers from theology too strong or too definite. That is the main point. That is what the paragraph is building on now. All right, I hope you've understood this. Let's move on to the next paragraph. The answer of the historian, insofar as I am capable of giving it, will appear in the course of this work. Ever since men became capable of free speculation, their actions in innumerable important respects have depended upon their theories as to the world and human life, as to what is good and what is evil. This is as true in the present day as at any former time. To understand an age or a nation, we must understand its philosophy, and to understand its philosophy, we must ourselves be in some degree philosophers. There is here a reciprocal causation. The circumstances of men's lives do much to determine their philosophy, but conversely, their philosophy does much to determine their circumstances. What is the main subject here? What is the main subject? Or rather, who is the main subject? If I were to give you a hint right now, who is the subject? What is the main point? So, the answer, my friends, the subject would be how. Just you get the hint from the very first line itself, the answer of the historian. Right? So, now you're talking about how the historian would answer and how the historian views everything. Right? Which is very, very prevalent in the entire paragraph going forward. It is from the point of view of what? From the point of view of a historian. How would the historian put it? Right? So the main subject, or rather the subject of this entire paragraph, paragraph number 5, is how a historian understands the entire aspect of philosophy, right? And the main point is how a historian observes, or how a historian understands philosophy and the world around him or her, right? This is what they're trying to say, right? They're trying to build an understanding, right? This is as true in the present day as at any former time. To understand an age or a nation, we must understand its philosophy. So how does a historian understand anything? The historians understand some anything through the philosophy of that time, the culture of that time. How do historians observe the world? Main point is speculation. Okay, what is the speculation here, Anushka? What is the speculation? If you could build upon this, because to my understanding the main point is they are telling us how historians view society, how historians observe society, and how historians understand society. Where is the speculation? Ever since men became capable of free speculation, their actions in innumerable important aspects have depended upon their theories as to the world and human life, as to what is good and what is evil. So maybe okay, by speculation, do you mean how we talk about culture, how we talk about time, how we talk about society, how we talk about the civilization? uh, in that respect, maybe your answer also makes sense. Okay, of the world. All right. Okay. All right. All right. So speculation, I would say, is the surface. If you scratch the surface a little bit, you will discover that we then move on from only saying speculation to actually talking about how we view society, how we view the world, how we view human life, right? How we understand a nation, how we understand the philosophy, how we understand the human race, right? And then there is the conclusion, right? There is here a reciprocal causation. The circumstances of men's lives do much to determine their philosophy, but conversely, their philosophy does much to determine their circumstances. So we are trying to build, a system to understand the world, right? So more than speculation, it will be about how we understand the world, how we make sense of everything around us. From what? From the historian's point of view. Because the main subject is what now? The main subject is historian, right? Let's move on to the last paragraph now. There is also, however, a more personal answer. Science tells us what we can know, but what we can know is little. And if we forget how much we cannot know, we may become insensitive to many things of very great importance. Theology, on the other hand, induces a dogmatic belief that we have knowledge, where in fact we have ignorance, and by doing so generates a kind of impertinent insolence towards the universe. Uncertainty in the presence of vivid hopes and fears is painful, but must be endured if we wish to live without the support of comforting fairy tales. It is good either to forget the questions that philosophy asks or to persuade ourselves that we have found indubitable answers to them. To teach how to live without uncertainty, or to teach how to live without certainty and yet without being paralyzed by hesitation is perhaps the chief thing that philosophy in our age can still do for those who study it. So, what is the subject here? The subject is present in the very first line itself. Right? The subject is present in the very first line, that there is a personal answer. To every individual, there is a personal answer, and to the author, there is a personal answer as well. So, here Bertrand Russell is talking about his personal answer. What is the main point? Come on, guys, come on. Tell me what the what the main point is. How is Bertrand Russell talking about the personal answer? Or why is Bertrand Russell talking about the personal answer? What constitutes the personal answer? Think on those lines. Why mention personal answer, or how is he mentioning the personal answer? Look at these lines. Look at these lines. Science tells us what we can know, but what we can know is little. Theology, on the other hand, induces a dogmatic belief that we have knowledge where in fact we have ignorance. So now they've concluded, yes, what philosophy teaches us, unlike theology and science, apt. Anushka, well done. Very well done. You've gotten it right. This paragraph is telling us what can be learned from philosophy. Well done. This is what I was waiting for. Right? So, with that, we have basically practiced how we ought to be making notes. This entire reading comprehension was a part of the 2002 CAT exam. Just summarizing it and reiterating the process once more. Every paragraph that you read in the reading comprehension, summarize it in clear, concise, and conversational terms. Don't write more than 5 words. Be clear in terms of what the passage is saying, what is the subject or who is the subject of the passage, and why is the subject being talked about, or how is the subject being talked about. That is the main point. So every paragraph will be summarized in two manners. Number one, what is the subject, who is the subject. Number two, why is the subject or how is the subject being talked about, which will be your main point. So two things you have to answer for every paragraph. Don't go more than 5 words. Don't start writing lines there. and be conversational. Express it in conversational terms, not in the way the paragraph is expressing both these things. All right, this is how you have to tackle reading comprehension, guys. Uh, with that, we've come to the end of today's lesson, right? So now we've begun our journey towards understanding and solving reading comprehensions, right? I'll be taking a few YouTube lives. I'll be dedicating a few YouTube lives on reading comprehension. At the same time, on Friday, I'm beginning a subscription course on the Unacademy platform on reading comprehension. So it's a crash course on reading comprehension and critical reasoning. I'll begin with it on Friday, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. and the classes will happen continuously for 10 days straight. Every day the class will be from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. It is a subscription course that I'm launching on the Unacademy platform. If you wish to enroll in it, please do so at the earliest. At the same time, at 3:30 today itself, in another half an hour, I am taking a free class on the Unacademy platform on subject verb agreement, right? Which is a very important portion of the uh, sentence correction part of your management exams. So if you wish to revise, or if you wish to refresh your concepts on subject verb agreement, it's a free class. uh, do try and join it. Do try and tune in. uh, Otherwise, I'll see you again tomorrow on the YouTube live, right? And I'll be taking you through further concepts of reading comprehension. So yeah, keep practicing. Practice note making. Do a couple